Hey everyone, in this video I want to talk about when it makes sense to get back with an ex. I see this question posed quite often online where people are still hung up on their ex, they haven't fully gotten over them, and they're asking whether or not it makes sense to open a line of communication with their ex again, or to even get back together with their ex. And I would say like 99% of the time, this probably isn't wise. And the reason I say that is because most of the time they likely haven't changed enough for you to avoid repeating the past all over again. If it's been a short period of time, you talking to them again, you're probably just going to waste your time and lose out on opportunities to meet people who would actually be good partners for you, because you're likely just going to end up doing the exact same thing you did with your ex before. So unless you enjoy repeating the past and wasting your time, I wouldn't really recommend this most of the time, especially if you're feeling lonely. Like, do not reach out to them again just because you're feeling lonely, just because you've thrown yourself back out there into the dating world and you haven't quite met anyone new yet, or you haven't met anyone who reminds you of them. I get that in today's world, dating is it's not great. I mean, especially if you live in like a Western country in a big city, dating is a bit of a struggle. But even then, just keep working on yourself and keep moving forward. Don't immediately reach out to your ex just because you miss that partnership or companionship that you had with them. If you're feeling lonely, that is not a good place for you to begin a new relationship. But anyway, let's dive into the two scenarios, in my opinion, that make sense for reaching back out to an ex. And if you have any other scenarios that would make sense, please comment them below as well. So these two scenarios, in my opinion, will increase the likelihood of things actually working out with you and your ex. So that's why I would actually say in these situations, sure, it makes sense to get back with them. And the first one is where enough time has passed that they've been able to actually work on themselves, to grow as a person, to change for the better. And then you two somehow randomly get into contact again, and you've been able to verify that they for sure have actually changed and become a better person. Now, anyone can tell you that they've changed, so you want to be paying attention to actions, not their words. Like, do not let them charm you over again. You have to watch their actions. Notice whether or not their life actually seems different, whether they're in a different place in life, whether maybe they've made career progress, or maybe they've created new hobbies, or just something that shows you they're in a good place, they're happy, and they're kicking butt at life. Usually that'll give you an idea that they've probably been working on themselves because they're in a better place overall. Now, if they tell you that they've changed, but their life is still basically the same and doesn't seem like much has changed in their life overall, then they probably haven't really made much change. But this is up to your own discretion. I would say the more that you work on yourself, the better, or the easier it'll be for you to notice when other people are working on themselves as well, because you'll know the work that you put in, you'll know the changes you have made, so it'll make it easier for you to spot those changes in others. So the more you work on yourself, it'll make it easier for you to tell whether or not an ex actually has done so themselves. And I would say, in general, it's kind of difficult to put a timeline on how much time should pass between that gap of you talking to them, because it does take a while for most people to change. But if your ex really enjoys learning new things, that's obviously going to decrease the time limit, because they could probably grow quicker than the average person just because they enjoy it. But for most people, I would say a healthy timeline is somewhere around 2 years of no contact with them. If you haven't talked to them for 2 years, there's a high likelihood that they probably had enough time to put in some work to changing themselves. But if it's less than that, it just increases the odds that they haven't really been able to change enough for you to not repeat the past with them, especially if you're talking months. If it's been like maybe less than a year since you've talked to them and you're thinking of getting back together with them because you miss them or you're feeling lonely or whatever, I just don't believe that you'll end up doing anything besides repeating the past. Like, maybe you get lucky, but I don't know. I just don't believe anything shorter than a year is enough time for either of you to have made significant change for things to have a higher likelihood of working out this time. So that's the first scenario, them working on themselves and there being a significant gap where you haven't talked to each other. Now, the second scenario This is a very specific one because it depends on how things ended the first time. If the first time when you were both together things ended due to logistical reasons, because maybe you just grew apart for some reason, maybe they had to go away for a job or for school, university or something, I don't know, maybe let's just say they got pulled away from you for whatever reason, like physically they ended up in a different location and now suddenly they're back in the same area as you again, and this time they're staying permanently or for a good long while. Basically, if your relationship ended not because you actually had any incompatibility, but just because there was something that required their attention and pulled them away from you, then yeah, I would say once they're back in your area, you can try things over again. Because if they were only pulled away from you due to reasons other than your compatibility, yeah, I mean, your compatibility was never the issue, so it was something else that you couldn't control. If that's the case, then of course you could probably try things again and they'll work out, especially if, like I said, time has passed because you've both probably been able to grow quite a bit. So, in my opinion, those are really the only two scenarios where this makes sense. And in that second scenario, that's one of those situations where when things don't work out due to something other than your compatibility, you don't even really ever truly lose that connection that you had with them anyway, because you both understood that if they didn't have to leave for whatever reason, or if that thing didn't come between the two of you, you would still be together. So that's like a very specific, unique situation. So of course that makes sense. And that's probably pretty rare because you both need to be rather mature from the beginning for that to kind of happen anyway. It's kind of like just where life gets in the way of your relationship. So those are really, in my opinion, the only two scenarios where it makes sense to get back with an ex, where either there's been enough time passed between your relationship that they've been able to grow a lot and so have you, so maybe you could give it another shot and you'll both be more mature individuals this time around, or where things just ended the first time due to something other than your compatibility, due to life getting in the way. So naturally it makes sense for you guys to try again if life is no longer going to get in the way of your relationship. But otherwise, I thought about this for a while and I just can't think of another situation that makes sense. So unless you've got one, feel free to comment it below, but I truly do believe for the most part those are really the only two situations where it makes sense, because otherwise you're likely just going to waste your time and repeat the past with them again, especially if they're toxic. If they weren't good for you, do not go back to them for whatever reason. Like, I don't care how much they were able to charm you or win you over. If they did not treat you well, do not listen to whatever love or feelings you have for them at all, because your feelings are going to get you seriously messed up. So if they're a toxic, unhealthy person for you, leave them in your past. I would say block them on everything so that there's no possibility for them to contact you ever again. You just do not want to get back with someone like that. But anyway, that was a bit of a dire example. Hopefully that's not the case for many of you, but I have seen a lot of comments where some of you unfortunately did end up in relationships with narcissists. Just block them. Don't contact them at all. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. Like I said, if you disagree with me here, please leave a comment with another scenario that you believe makes sense. I just couldn't think of any myself, but I mean, I'm only one person, so we can do more when we crowdfund these ideas together. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment. But I truly hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like content like this, be sure to subscribe for more. Otherwise, throw a like on the video and a comment for the algorithm, and I will see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci!